Okay, tonight is John chapter 11.
Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment, and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby.
So what we're being introduced to here is a family who was friends with Jesus. Right? It was he knew these people. He was friendly with them. It was a man named Lazarus, and she had two sisters named Mary and Martha. Okay, so they were his friends. So now when 11 it says a certain man was sick named Lazarus of Bethany. All right, that was somebody who he was friendly with. So he got the word that his friend was sick. All right, and two is just mentioning that the Mary we're talking about here, because there were multiple Marys mentioned in the New Testament. This one is the one who anointed Jesus with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair and so forth. And if you're wondering where it said that, we actually haven't gotten up to it yet. See, in chapter 12 it mentions that, but of course this is John writing the story, many years later. So that's why he's thinking back. This was the Mary that anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped it with her hair and so forth, even though in time sequence it wasn't up to that just yet. All right, so 3 says, therefore his sisters sent word to him saying, Lord, he whom thou lovest is sick, because Lazarus was his friend. He said, hey, your friend is sick. And when Jesus said, well, as you see his response in 4, that you might actually wonder why he was almost like a little cold about it. He said, well, the sickness isn't unto death, all right? So he says, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. So in other words, he's saying there's a purpose even in him being sick. So we don't know what it is yet, but he says there's some reason why he's sick, right? He says it's not unto death, but there is some reason for him being sick, and so God's going to be glorified in this, right? And so, for us, it tells us that, occasionally when things happen that we may not understand, we say, well, maybe there is some purpose in that God would have. And so in this case, he's saying there is a purpose in Lazarus being sick here, is that God would be glorified.
Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When he had heard therefore that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. Then after that saith he to his disciples, Let us go into Judea again.
In 5, where it says Jesus loved Martha, right, and her sister Mary and Lazarus, right, there's a reason that the writer is pointing this out, because what's going to happen next is going to almost make you question did he even care, right? And sometimes again we may wonder, does God care when maybe our prayer doesn't get answered right away, or we made the wait or whatever, right? As you see, he says he gets the word that Lazarus is sick, and the next verse in 6 it says when he heard he was sick, he hung around for 2 days, right? It says he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. So, it was like, well, there's no urgency to go see him. It's not unto death, and God's going to be glorified. Let's just hang around for a couple days, all right? So it would almost seem like, it wasn't even in a hurry to see him, right? And so then finally, after 2 days, he says to his disciples, okay, now let's go. Let's go to Judea again, all right? So they're going to be on their way to Judea, which is right near Bethany, and also near Jerusalem. And so you're going to go and now see what has to be done. Right? Judea, see, is actually here, all right? So that we're like Jerusalem is kind of the capital city of Judea, and they typically, Jesus and his disciples usually were up in Galilee, all right? So they're going to make the trip down. Right, but so Bethany is also in the same general area, right? So therefore, that's where they live. I think Bethany is another city of Judea, right? So that's where Lazarus lived. So but instead of hurrying, he said, let's just hang out here for a couple days, and now let's go.
His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou thither again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him.
Verse 8 is his disciples' reaction to saying, let's go to Judea. Right? If you remember, in chapter 10 and probably even chapter 9, right? But certainly at the end of chapter 10, they were ready to stone him. right? Because he was saying he was the Son of God, right? They were going to stone him, and then he basically escaped and and left there. So he's been gone for some period of time, and now he's saying, "Oh, let's go back to Judea." And they say, "Wait a minute. They want to kill you there, all right? Are you sure you want to go?" And he says, "Master, the Jews sought to stone thee. In fact, recently they want to stone you, and you're going to go there again? Maybe you should be like staying away from there." However, Jesus answers, "Are there not 12 hours in the day?" He says, if any man walks in the day, he stumbles not. Right now, because he seeth the light of the world. Now, first of all, Jesus would be the light of the world. All right, so in other words, he's saying that he's going to go and he's going to bring his light there. All right, so that he's not afraid, right? Because he says if we go, that the light of the world is going to go there. All right, and it says, but we're not going to like sneak in the middle of the night, because that's not who I am. I'm the light of the world. I'm going to go there, and basically he's not afraid. All right, he's not afraid of what's going to happen, because he knows that he's protected. It's not the time for him to be crucified or to be killed, so he's going.
These things said he, and after that he saith unto them, Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep. Then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Jesus spake of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in sleep.
So he says to them, he says, our friend Lazarus is sleeping, right, in 11, and I'm going to go and wake him up. And so 12, they said, if he's sleeping, that's good for him. If he's sick, if he's sick, it's good. He gets some rest and so forth, right? So basically, why are you going to go wake him up and disturb him? It'd be better to let him just rest, right? But as you see in 13, it says, howbeit Jesus spake of his death, all right? But they thought that he spoke of taking rest and sleep. So really, when he said Lazarus is sleeping, he meant that Lazarus was dead, right? And that he was going to go wake him up. But the disciples didn't get that right away, right? They didn't get that point. And again, why would they? Because they hadn't seen him do that yet, right? So that they were then just heard him say, he's sleeping. And I said, well, that's good if he's sleeping. He should rest and take a nap.
Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him.
So since they weren't really getting it, right, when he said that Lazarus is sleeping, and so they thought he really was sleeping, so then 14 says, he said plainly, Lazarus is dead. All right, that's really what I meant. And in 15 says, I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent that you might believe. If he had arrived while he was still sick, and then still alive, well then of course they would have said, heal him, all right? And so if he would have healed him, and then it wouldn't have the same impact of what's going to happen now, right? So that's why he says, I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, because this is going to be something that you're going to see, and you're going to see who I am and really what I can do here. And so I wouldn't have the chance to do that if I got there in time to save him before he died. So that's why he says, I'm glad I wasn't there. I'm glad they died first, because now you're going to see something. It's okay, so now let's go. All right, and now Thomas, which is one of the 12, which is called Didymus, all right, which a lot of them had, if you will, nicknames. Didymus means the twin. Okay, that he was actually a twin. So all right, he said, still, I guess not really feeling too brave at the moment. All right, saying, the last time you were there, they wanted to stone you, and so. He's still thinking if you go back, they're gonna kill you, all right? So he says, well, if you're gonna go, we'll go, and so we'll all die together then, all right? And so he's basically willing to just go along with it, and whatever happens, all right?
Then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off, and many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother.
Okay, so we'll write Bethany in down here. Okay, so that's where they lived, all right? And so it says it was not too far from Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs. So Jesus arrives in Bethany, all right, and he finds out that not only is Lazarus dead, he's been in the grave for 4 days already, right? So I don't know how long it took him to get there, but so it would appear he was at least 4 days too late, because he was already 4 days in the grave, right? And so So now 18 and 19, he's just pointing out that Bethany was close to Jerusalem, so therefore many people were able to come from Jerusalem to help out with the mourning, right? So it says in 19, it says, many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Right? And what we sometimes point out with these people is that it would appear from other writings that there were people who just, when they heard there was a death or a funeral, they just wanted to go there, right? Whether they knew the people or not, right? They would just go to help out with the mourning process, right? And they would go and they would cry and so forth. And so that's not sometimes call them the professional mourners, right? They go wherever there's sadness and they go and cry along with the people, right? So it says because Jerusalem was close to Bethany, so a lot of them were able to go and to provide some comfort to Martha and Mary to kind of cry along with them at the death of their brother.
Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, but Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. Jesus saith unto her, Thy brother shall rise again.
Martha, one of the sisters, heard that Jesus was coming, so she goes out to meet him, right? And then says what you probably would have assumed that somebody would have said, especially somebody who believed in Jesus, says, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died, right? And almost making him make him feel bad that he took so long to get there. I contacted you while he was sick, and it took you too long to get here. And so, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Now, on the one hand, it may sound almost like a criticism, but of course, it's also showing faith, right? To say that she believed that if Jesus was there, he would have been healed. So that, saying, I wish you would have been here in time because I know you could have healed him and you would have healed him. So she's sad that her brother is dead and saying, gee, Jesus, I wish you had gotten here sooner. You could have saved his life, right? She says, but I know that even now, whatever you ask of God, God will give it to you. Right? Now again, that's pretty good. That's pretty good faith, right? To say that even now, whatever you would ask of God. Now, is she asking that he'd be brought back to life? I mean, again, there was never any time when that happened, but yet, that's what it would sound like. He's saying, well, if you ask God, I'm sure He'll give you whatever you ask for. And as you see in 23, Jesus says that thy brother shall rise again. Now, that could be taken one of two ways, right? Or either way. I mean, it could be taken that he's going to be brought back to life, or that we all expect to rise again. So we're going to resurrect and rise again. So like I say, you could take it that way as well. He's just saying, well, yeah, but don't worry, your brother's not dead forever. He's going to rise again, and just as we all will.
Martha saith unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? She saith unto him, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world.
First, Martha is kind of reacting to the statement of Jesus there where he said, thy brother shall rise again. So that's why she says, I know he's going to rise again in the resurrection at the last day, like we were saying earlier, because we're all taught that, and Jesus was already teaching that, and she already believed that. So she says, yes, I know he's going to rise at the resurrection at the last day. So then now Jesus is going to just say a little bit about what that means. In 25, it says, I'm the resurrection and the life. He that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Right? That's, of course, what it means in the resurrection, that somebody who's dead comes back to life in a spiritual mode. Right? And that's because Jesus defeated the grave. And so that's why it says, I am the resurrection and the life. So basically, without him, it wouldn't be possible for anybody. But because of him, we're all able to do that. Right? And that's why it's 26, whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Right? And now he's asking Martha, do you believe this? Right? Because really, I mean, it can be a stretch to believe that. Right? That somebody who believes in Jesus would never die, right? Because you have eternal life. And so, of course, she responds, yes, I believe that. She says, yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. So, yes, I believe that you're the resurrection and the life. And I believe that believing in you means that we'll have eternal life.
And when she had so said, she went her way, and called Mary her sister secretly, saying, The Master is come, and calleth for thee. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly, and came unto him. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. The Jews then which were with her in the house, and comforted her, when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily and went out, followed her, saying, She goeth unto the grave to weep there.
Martha goes back to call her sister now, goes back to call her sister Mary, and says, the master, or Jesus, has come and wants to see you. See, if you remember, it said that Martha ran out to meet Jesus, right? Not that she waited for him to get to the house, so she went out to wherever he was at that particular time. So Mary hasn't seen him yet, so now she goes back to Mary, Jesus would like to see you. So of course she rose quickly and went to meet him, right? And she left the house. And now in 31, see, this is what I was mentioning earlier about all the Jews, as was referred to here, were people who came particularly to help with the mourning process, all right? So that's why it says when they saw that Mary got up and was going out quickly, they said, oh, she must be going back to the grave to cry some more. Come on, let's go with her so we can cry too, all right? They were going to go to the grave with her because they wanted to be part of this. That's what they were there for. And picturing again what it said earlier, that 4 days he's already been in the grave. So I mean, they're already been around for a little while, right? They're into the fourth day of the mourning process now. To be honest, I don't know how long the period was already prescribed for it, but he said he was already in there for 4 days, so clearly they're up to 4 days at this point.
Then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping which came with her, he groaned in the spirit, and was troubled, and said, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see.
All right, so when Mary reached where Jesus was, she basically gave him the same guilt trip as her sister did. All right, as you see in 32, it says, "If you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died." All right, so why'd you take so long to get here? All right, and but now it says when Jesus saw this scene, right, he sees her crying and sees all the Jews who are following her around so they can cry too, right? That they were all there. It says he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. Typically when we read this part, I mean, it can kind of go either way, right? That you just say, well, it was a sad scene, so that he was troubled at witnessing all this sadness and weeping. But then also that I believe that he was looking for perhaps some faith that he was going to make it okay, right? So seeing that people were reacting this way, it basically was discounting that he could do anything at this point. So that I think he was also troubled at that. That's why he says he's troubled in his spirit, right? Because what he was witnessing. So then he follows that up with, okay, where's he buried, right? Where have you laid him, right? And so we'll come on and see. So yeah, whoever he wasn't right at the grave site. So he said, I'd like to see where he's been buried. And so now they're going to take him to where he was buried.
Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, Behold, how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even this man should not have died?
First of all, we'll point out that verse 35 is typically referred to as the shortest verse in the Bible. Right? Right, because it's all 2 words, right? That Jesus wept. Right, so but within the context of this, you see what's happening, right? As we just said that he had groaned in the spirit and witnessing the scene. So it says Jesus wept, or he cried himself over what he was witnessing, right? And so, but now in 36 it says that all these Jews who were crying says, "Oh look how much he loved him," right? Because he's crying too along with everybody else, right? And then following it up with this guy, he did the miracles, he healed the blind people. If only we would have got here on time, he could have prevented him from dying, right? As he says in 37, couldn't this guy have caused that even this man should not have died, right? If he only would have got here in time, he could have made a difference. And typically we say that the Jesus wept part also is what we were saying earlier, that he wept. I mean, both at the scene and also what he perceived as perhaps a little bit of a lack of faith here that now he's arrived, and so it's like, oh, you're too late, right? They're just beating him up for not getting there in time, whereas he had said, at least to his disciples, that this is for the glory of God. So something's going to happen here for the glory of God, but they're all saying, oh, you're too late, why didn't you get here sooner?
Jesus therefore again groaning in himself cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. Jesus saith unto her, Said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldst believe, thou shouldst see the glory of God?
So now it says, 38, Jesus therefore, again groaning in himself, came to the grave, right? And so, based on what it's saying here a little bit later, I mean, it sounds like he at least said perhaps to Martha that the glory of God would be evident in what's going to happen here, all right? But regardless, it says he came to the grave, which was a cave with a stone in front of it, as we said earlier, all right? And it tells them to take away the stone, right? So then they're like, whoa, you sure you want to do this, all right? I mean, he's been in there for 4 days, all right? One of my favorite words here, he stinketh, all right? In other words, it's gonna smell bad, all right? I mean, because it's been there for 4 days. I mean, they weren't doing embalming or anything. They just basically put the dead body in there, and so it's been just kind of ripening for 4 days here, right? And now we're going to take away the stone. And whoop, all right? So he said, you sure you want to do that? All right? But now Jesus says, didn't I tell you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? So in other words, don't worry about it's going to stink. All right? Don't worry about excuses. Don't worry about, well, we shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. Just, I told you, if you believe, you're going to see the glory of God.
Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearest me always, but because of the people which stand by I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he had thus spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus saith unto them, Loose him, and let him go.
They did what he said. They took away the stone, all right? And now Jesus is going to speak to the Father, all right? And it says in 41, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. But those says in 42. He says, I know you always hear me, all right? And he doesn't really even have to speak out loud because he says, how many times did he say I and the Father are one? So, I mean, they can communicate without actually speaking verbally. But there was a reason for him saying it out loud. The reason was for the sake of the people who were there, that they would hear what he was saying, right? So in this case, because this was a miracle that was for the purpose of everybody who was there to witness this. It wasn't just doing a favor for a friend. This was a miracle that everybody would be able to see what was going to happen. And so that's why he's speaking out loud, speaking in the language they can understand. All right, he says, I'm saying it this way that because the people which stand by, that they can hear that I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And then when he had said that, then he says, cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And you see what happens in 44. It says, he that was dead comes out, still wrapped up in what they call the grave clothes, right? Because for the body, they did kind of wrap it in like a cloth and the head and so forth. So he was kind of almost looking like the mummy or something, right? He came out with dressed in the grave clothes, but yet obviously he's alive. He come running out or stumbling out, and so I'm sure it was a very scary thing, but a very miraculous thing that when he says it, they're probably seeing what's going to happen, and then here he comes. All right, he actually came out of the cave, out of the tomb, says still with his face bound about the napkin and so forth, and Jesus, okay, get all that stuff off him because now he's back among the living. Again, this is obviously an exception to the process. That people are typically not brought back to life in this life when they leave this life, right? But everybody does get to resurrect, right? And now what happened to Lazarus here, it's not a resurrection, okay? Because the resurrection is when you go up with a spiritual body and you're ready to go to the kingdom of heaven, right? Lazarus came back to the flesh in this life, all right? So that's not a resurrection. He was brought back to life here, which means that after some period of time, he was going to die again, right? So he's going to get to die twice, right? Because obviously he would die of old age or whatever, so eventually he would die again, and then he would resurrect later on, right? And one additional point I would make that someone had said this one time, and again, it makes sense. It doesn't say it right here necessarily, but in 43 where he says Lazarus come forth, right? He's calling him by name to come out. That someone had preached a sermon once that said that he used the name for a reason, because here that they were in the area of the tombs, right? So if he just would have said, "Come forth," everybody would have come forth, all right? Because he could have easily brought everybody back to life who was buried there, right? But he called him by name, Lazarus, come forth. This way, he was the one brought back to the living.
Then many of the Jews which came to Mary, and had seen the things which Jesus did, believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees, and told them what things Jesus had done. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council, and said, What do we? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
Right, so as we've seen with other miracles that Jesus has done, it's kind of a split reaction, depending on who it was who either witnessed it or heard about it. Right, in 45 it says, many of the Jews which saw this believed on him. Right, and I mean, my estimation, how could you not? Right, that you knew the guy was dead 4 days, and Jesus has come forth, and he comes back to life. Right, so those who witnessed it, and they believed. Right, it says, however, it's in 46, some of them went to the Pharisees and basically told on him, right, and said, hey, you should see what this guy's doing, right? And now, again, after they were disputing what had happened, but they said, man, this guy is really good. I mean, he makes the lame walk, he makes the blind see, and now look what he did. He brought a dead guy back to life. But instead of seeing it as, wow, this is the Messiah, the Son of God, instead they see it as a threat. Right, the Pharisees do. It says 47 says, then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees, that they got a council together and said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? This guy's doing all these miracles, and if we don't take action, or if we leave him alone, everybody's going to believe on him. And then where are we, right? We're going to be out, because we're supposed to be the leaders, we're supposed to be the ones in charge, and the Romans are going to come and say, what do we need you for? We got this guy Jesus doing miracles left and right. What can you guys do? Nothing. All right. So they said, we can't let this continue, because we're going to lose our jobs, we're going to lose our position. So this is not good.
And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for that nation. And not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad.
So within this council meeting, right, it says that the one who's speaking up here is named Caiaphas, he says he's being the high priest that same year, which to me would lead one to believe that perhaps that was like an elected position, right? So, kind of like we would elect the presiding elder, right? So say he's, for this year he's the presiding elder, this year he's the high priest, right? So he gets to say these kind of things as to what he thinks should happen. And notice in 49 he says to them, you guys don't know nothing, all right? He says, it's obvious what we have to do. We have to kill him. Right, we have to kill him. I mean, that's what we need to do. It says it's better that one man should die than that the whole nation should be affected. Okay, so it's in 15. It's better that one man should die rather than the whole nation perish. All right, and he says, using his position, says he prophesied that within the year of this Jesus is going to die. Right, in other words, he's going to put in a plan in place to kill him. Right, because Caiaphas and all these people they had no ability to prophesy, right? They weren't plugged into God that way, so he was doing it as a prophecy. In other words, saying this is what's going to happen. Watch. In the next year, this guy's going to die, right? Well, of course, because they're going to plot to kill him, right? And so that's what they were going to do, right? It says in 52, and not for that nation only, but also you should gather together in one of the children of God that were scattered abroad. And it was for all of Israel who's all scattered around. All right, this will help we'll be able to unite Israel over this. And we'll use this guy as an example that we're the ones in charge, that we're the ones who can make the things happen, that God's on our side. And so he's really talking big here, right? That we're going to kill off this guy who's a threat to us. This way people know we're the ones who are representing God here.
Then from that day forth they took counsel together for to put him to death. Jesus therefore walked no more openly among the Jews, but went thence unto a country near to the wilderness, into a city called Ephraim, and there continued with his disciples.
All right, so coming out of that council meeting, in 53 it says, from that day forth, they took counsel together for to put him to death. In other words, that this is now, maybe they like passed a motion, maybe, so we make a motion that we're gonna find a way to kill this guy, all right, and so that was their order of business now, that's what they were gonna try to do here. And so therefore, 54 says, Jesus therefore walked no more openly among the Jews, all right, see, up until this point, they were maybe just, I don't know if they were actually half kidding or half warning him, they tried to stone you last week, why are you gonna go there again, all right, but now this is a real threat, if you will, all right, because now the organization is uniting together to kill him. So that now he's not going to be able to just show up randomly in Jerusalem, because they would grab him and kill him. So that's why he says he walked no more openly among the Jews, but went to a country near the wilderness and continued there with his disciples for a period of time, right? So basically he'll go into hiding until the time when it's really time for him to actually be crucified.
And the Jews' Passover was nigh at hand, and many went out of the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. Then sought they for Jesus, and spake among themselves, as they stood in the temple, What think ye, that he will not come to the feast? Now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a commandment, that if any man knew where he were, he should show it, that they might take him.
Shortly after this, it says that it was about time for the Passover. So when the Passover comes, a lot of people come from all the surrounding areas to come to Jerusalem. So you see what they're saying now. They're saying, "Hey, is Jesus here? Right? Do you think he's going to come?" And in 56, and then but I mean clearly he's not going to appear in public, because as you see in 57, it says the chief priests and the Pharisees, they've given a command: if anybody sees this guy, you have to tell us. Right, because he's basically wanted. It's like you picture today, the FBI most wanted list, he's like public enemy number 1 at this point. So and if anybody sees him, you got to tell us, or else you're in trouble. So them saying, gee, I wonder if Jesus is going to show up at the feast. No, I don't think he's going to show up just yet, because when he does, then something is going to happen, because they're going to have to turn him in. So this is kind of where they're leaving it now, right? So they're wanting him, they're after him, and so you can see that this miracle, the raising of Lazarus, right, it was a miraculous thing, and one of the biggest miracles Jesus did. But yet it also pushed his enemies over the top, to where now they said, now we have to kill him, because if he can do this, then how can we possibly compete with that? Right? We certainly can't do that. And imagine if he was really going to use that as like a weapon and say, anybody who we kill, he can bring him back to life, right? How can we even fight against somebody like that? So yeah, this guy has to go. So the raising of Lazarus fueled them to say, now we have to do something about this Jesus and get rid of him.